First thing in the morning, everyone ready to design some interiors? Yes. All right, interiors. The most exciting thing ever. So my name is Eric Schimelpfenig. I'm obviously a SketchUp user. I'm also a kitchen designer. And what I thought I would do today is, aside from, well, let me back up for a little bit. Aside from designing kitchens, I actually teach a lot of people SketchUp. So instead of doing something super amazing or super revelatory, I thought I would just go through designing a kind of normal interior space and show most of the basic SketchUp tools, but show all the things that I find interior and kitchen designers kind of missing when they first learn SketchUp. And I hope you guys will be pretty excited about some of the ways that you can use most of the basic tools in SketchUp to make designing an interior or kitchen space a lot easier. How many people are practicing interior designers? Okay, kitchen designers, residential designers, home designers. All right, cool. So we have a pretty relevant audience. So let me just jump right into it. One of the first things I do when I design a space in SketchUp is I'll usually either start out with, if I'm lucky, a really good AutoCAD model that I can import, that all the dimensions are perfect. But the reality of it is I usually get a picture of a floor plan or a scan or a PDF, or a lot of times beer stained napkins, things like that. In those, you type in the dimensions, you kind of draw your floor plan manually. But let's assume I got an email with a pretty typical PDF floor plan. So what I'll do is go find the file here, Basecamp, proposals to projects. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to import this apartment drawing. So this is the drawing that I'm going to bring in, and luckily I have a really nice, really well colored in drawing. And what I'm going to do is, this is an image, so I'm going to say all supported image types. And right now it's set use as texture, and I'm going to want to say use as image. And one mistake I see a lot of people making is they'll check off the matched photo option. Did anyone take any of the match photo classes? Okay, so if you didn't take that class, what matched photo is, it's a way that you can take a picture of a corner of a building and you can recreate a 3D model off of that. That's not what we're doing. We're taking a 2D floor plan and we're going to draw on top of it and then extrude up the walls. So what we want to do is import this apartment drawing as an image. So I'll hit import and it comes in here and I can click to set it down. Doesn't really matter where we put it. I usually like to put it somewhere in the corner there. And when you click once and you click again, you can set, in the bottom corner there it says height, but that's kind of irrelevant at this point because we're not going to be able to accurately scale this. So what I usually do is just get it sort of close and set it in there like that. Now, one of the things that, one of the reasons why there's a scale figure in SketchUp, besides just kind of being a cool little thing when you start it, is they are there for scale. So Lisanne is actually drawn to her real life height. So it helps you when you initially start drawing to scale something. So she's a little bit too big for this apartment, but we're kind of in the ballpark. We don't have a tiny little postage stamp floor plan, and we don't have one that's really giant. So one of the things with components is their scale is sort of locked. Just by show of hands, has anyone used the tape measure tool to resize something in SketchUp? Okay, I'm just going to go over that in a new model really quick here, just to show you something. So I'm going to make a group like this. This is just actually I don't even need to make it a group. This is just a box, okay? So I didn't pay attention to the dimension that I made it, but let's say I want to make this box 25 feet high. So I use my tape measure tool, so T for tape measure, or you can click it, and I click on this point, and I click on this point, and if you can see in the bottom right corner, currently this box is about 37 inches tall. And if I type in 25 feet and hit enter, this dialog comes up and it says, do you want to resize the model? And it says, note that all components within the model that were loaded from external files will not be resized. So let's watch what happens. I click yes, and Lisanne stays the same size, but if I look at the rest of my model, you can see now that my box is really big. So when you have a component in there, the component scale is locked, and this is actually a good thing. So let me show you how this works with the floor plan. So since I did a little homework for this class, I know that the distance from this corner here in this floor plan and this corner here in this floor plan is 25¼ feet. So I can take my tape measure tool and I can zoom in here and I can click right here and I can move along here. And I want to get the distance from this corner, the first corner to this corner, and I want to tell SketchUp that that's 25¼ feet. So let's watch what happens when I do it. So I'm going to get as close as I can into that corner. Right now it's 180 inches. I'm going to click again, and I'm going to type in 25.25 feet and hit enter. And it's going to ask me the same thing. Do you want to resize the model? So I'm going to hit yes, and I'm going to hit zoom extents. And now let's take a look at it. That looks a little more to scale, right? So a tip for doing this, and did you guys notice when I zoomed in here that this is kind of pixelated? So it's a little fuzzy about exactly where you're getting it. So at this point in the design process, I'm usually working off of a PDF or theoretical dimensions. This is fine. It's going to get you really close. And typically what I do is go back after something is rough framed. We'll get real field dimensions and then go back and adjust your model. So we're really at the design and proposal stage right now. But a little tip. Has anyone ever imported an image into SketchUp like this for text or anything else and it's like kind of blurry like this? So there's a reason for that. This is actually a pretty high quality image. And if we go look in, let's see if I can get to Finder here. I'll show you. I think I can zoom this in. So if we take a look at this image, it's a bit higher quality than what we're seeing in SketchUp right now. And the reason why is when SketchUp brings any image in, whether it's an image like this or a texture or any other kind of image you bring in, you could take the highest quality 4K picture with the best camera, but SketchUp will lower the quality of it. And the reason why is if you have a lot of photo textures in the model, they're trying to make it so that your model doesn't get really chunky and really slow. But there's a way to fix that. So if you go into SketchUp and you go to Preferences, just zoom this in, and in the Preferences menu, which on a Mac is under the SketchUp menu and Preferences, and on a PC it's under Window and Preferences. If you go in here and you go down to OpenGL, there's a setting in here called Use Maximum Texture Size, and by default that's unchecked. So let's take a look at the quality of our, let's see if I can get back to Preferences here. Okay. So if we take a look at our model, watch what happens when I check this box off. So I'm going to get a warning that says, you may experience a significant slowdown when using maximum texture size. If you do not have a high-end graphics card, we recommend that you do not use this setting. But I'm going to go ahead and click yes and see how much better my drawing looks. Again, and the one I imported is not the super high quality, but be careful when you use this. You can absolutely bring in a really high quality image. Maybe bringing in a 20 or 30 megabyte image is a little bit overkill, so you might want to resize it somewhat before you bring it in if you have one like that. But typically with floor plans, they're well within a size the SketchUp can handle on any modern computer just fine. So that's a good tip, so you can see your texture or your images a little bit more clearly. So you can go in here and you can check a couple dimensions too, just to make sure you're in scale. That's about 4 feet. That seems right. We can go over here and I'll usually check a few things. We'll take a look at the dimension of this door here. That's about 41 inches. That seems right. And again, we're at the conceptual stage, so we want to be as close as we can get it, but we don't really have to stress out too much about getting it down to the exact 1/16 of an inch. So has anyone ever traced over a floor plan like this before in SketchUp? Awesome. Okay, so here's some tips. I teach this all the time, and I'll show you some tips to make it a little bit easier. So for those of you that have not done this, you can take your line tool, and actually, let me do this. I am fortunate enough to have a perfectly aligned image here, but sometimes when you get an image, especially if it's scanned, there's a picture of a floor plan, it's not perfectly parallel. Has anyone ever run into that before and you start drawing and like none of your lines line up? Okay, so let's say that you have an image that's crooked like this when you bring it in. You can actually use, if you go to View and Large Tool Set, or if you're on a PC, it's window tool palettes. And there is the axes tool in here. So by default, SketchUp will try to help you line everything up on the red and the green and the blue axis. That's called inferencing in SketchUp. So where it falls apart is here with this crooked drawing. Well, the red axis doesn't even go anywhere near where I want to be. And what would happen if I started tracing this, you could do it, but it ends up being really hard to get things lined up, and then you'll end up with all these walls, these wall faces that don't line up, and you'll have a bad time. So it can make it easier for you. So what you can do is you can click this axes tool down here, which is this little guy right here, and you click that and find a meaningful corner. It doesn't necessarily matter where, but I like to find an area with a long straight run, and you can click in a corner and you can line it up like this. If you're very careful, you can set the axes so that it now lines up with the corner of your drawing. So that means when we start tracing this plan out, our red axis is going to go the way that we expect it, our green axis is going to go the way that we expect it, and so on. Does that make sense to everyone? So moving your axes around, super awesome trick, really easy to do. But before I trace it, how many people who have traced floor plans like this before have traced it off of an image, and then you end up getting these wall dimensions that are like 47 and 1/64 wide, and they're, okay. So there's a way to fix that too. You could trace all of your walls, go back and check all the dimensions and like do push-pull and sort of fix it afterwards, but that's a little bit tedious. I like to fix it beforehand. So what you can do is you can go to Window, and go to Model Info, and in this menu, this is all the information about your model. The one that we're after is Units, which is down here. And what you can do is SketchUp by default, a lot of the templates have length snapping enabled, but they're at they're many decimal places out. So what we can actually do is let's change this to something that's a little more meaningful to interiors. So what length snapping means, right now it's set at a 1/16 of an inch. So that means when I draw a line or any other piece of geometry, if we look down here, so this is a line that I'm drawing, and you can see every 1/16 of an inch, if I move really slowly, it'll stop, okay? So what I do for floor plans like this is I kind of want to be to the nearest 1/2 inch, usually, just to make some good round numbers, which again, I'll go fix later when I get real field dimensions. So what I'll do is go in and do Model Info and change my length snapping to a 1/2 inch, like that, and let's see what happens. So we'll go back down to the corner here, and I'll draw a line. So now it snaps to every 1/2 inch. So let's go start tracing our floor plan out. I've got one already done. I'll just do a couple lines here just to show you how this works. But if you keep your eye on the bottom right-hand corner there, I know that's kind of small, but you can see this first one is 17.5 inches. This one comes up to 128.5, 24.5. Maybe we'll get a whole number here. 105. So we're getting some realistic numbers here. Okay, so here is the first problem. How do you get this right? This angle here. You could just click it in the corner and you could keep on going on, but I have a suspicion that somebody used a protractor and probably set this at a particular angle. How many people have used the protractor tool to drop those dotted lines? Okay. So let's do that real quick. So down here, we have, right next to the tape measure tool, we have a protractor. And what you can do is, I've drawn, it's a little hard to see, but I've got a line all the way into this corner here. So I'm going to click the protractor tool once, and then I can set the first line that I want to protract from. Is that a word? I don't know. It's a word now. I just made it a word. So we're going to protract this way. And so here's a little protractor tip. I know it's hard to see, but in the bottom right-hand corner, we're seeing the angle that I'm currently protracting at. And as I move my mouse, it goes 97, 98.9, and so on. So if I hold it over here, I got it to stop in 135, but sometimes it's a little hard to figure out. Is it 135? Is it 136? And especially if you have your photocopy of your drawing isn't that great, it could be hard to figure out. The closer you get to the center of the protractor, you'll get snaps. So out here, I can be at just about any angle, but if I'm in here, let me zoom this in. If I'm in here, when I get close to these little tick marks, SketchUp kind of snaps at every angle. So see how it's like a little sticky when I'm moving my mouse? So you can use that to your advantage. So if I look down here, one of the snaps is at 135 degrees. So if I kind of zoom out of my model a little bit, I think we can reasonably assume that the person drawing this wanted a 135-degree wall. So we'll go ahead and click that. And when I click again, that drops a dotted line. That's like a construction line that just runs forever at 135 degrees. But what we can do is use that as a guide. So I'll start the line tool again and just draw another line and go right into the corner. And now I've got a perfectly lined up line. Now, this is so what can happen here? Now we have this 135 degree wall, and then we have this other angle going up this way. Now there's actually a bunch of different ways you could deal with it. You could take your protractor tool and do the same trick. Go here. I think it's pretty safe to assume that that's 90 degrees. You could set another line. You could move your axes if you wanted, which is totally fine. You would just have to be careful about lining it up. Like you could go like this and set your axis point here and start drawing that way. That's another trick you could do. Or most of the time, the SketchUp inferencing engine, which is the sorcery behind drawing lines that helps keep everything lined up, can actually help you get that lined up. So what I'll do is take my pencil tool and click on this line, and I just kind of point at the line I made before, which is kind of telling SketchUp, hey, I want to like reference this line with the next line that I'm making. So if I do that, and I move up here, see how it turns purple? Okay, has anyone ever seen that before and like not really understood what that is? Okay, so let me for those of you that aren't totally aware of the ins and outs of the inferencing engine, I'll give you a quick little crash course here. So when you're drawing stuff, you can draw on the red axis, you can draw on the green axis, which is that, green axis like that. So that's like left and right, and forward and back I call them, just to make it easy. When you're drawing on the blue axis, that's up and down, like in 3 dimensions, and if you ever forget which one is which, it doesn't matter with floor plans which way they're turned in the model, but the important one is blue. And I always remember blue because blue, the sky is blue, blue points towards the sky, okay? So what you can do is if you have a line that's on an angle, so let's say I have this this line I drew right here, and it's not on the red, green, or blue axis, and we can tell by looking at the top here, this line is not lined up with any of the axes. But let's say I wanted to draw a line that's parallel to it, I can actually do that. So I can start my line tool, I'll click a line over here, and SketchUp will turn it purple, and it will draw a line parallel to that first line. It'll also find right angles to other lines. So that's the trick that I use in this floor plan here. So if we go back, any questions on that? Does that make sense? Okay. I'll do it one more time. And, so lines stick to the red axis, the green axis, and the blue axis, which is up and down. So to see it in 3D, here's a line going on the blue axis. But if I draw one off axis, so it's not on the red, green, or blue, and I want to draw a parallel line to it, I can start that line anywhere, and you can kind of touch the line a little bit, and then it will draw a parallel line, or it will draw a right angle line like that. So this is at an exact 90-degree difference from the first one. So to see that in practice, if I go over here, there is a line here. So see how it didn't turn purple right here? I'm not getting that? If I go over here and I kind of touch this line, and I go back up, now I get that purple line. So I can go here, same thing, SketchUp picked it right up, I get that purple line, and I can continue on and model my floor plan. Now, it's kind of hard to see the lines that I've drawn already because I'm drawing black lines on a black floor plan. So there's actually a way you can fix that. You can go to Window, and you can go to Styles. And what styles normally are, let me just open a better model here. Let's see. Here, we'll just do a new model real quick. No. Like that. So what styles, how many people know what styles are? Okay. So styles are, they can change a lot of things, but mainly they change the line type of your drawing. So you can do, we'll go to sketchy edges here. So if we take a look at Lasan and I change the style, I can make her look hand-drawn, I can make it look like she's on a chalkboard, you can have thick lines, markers, and there's all kinds of different styles here that you can change. But what we're going to do in here is we're going to do a little bit more basic of an edit to our style. So we're going to go back to Window and Styles. And if we click the little house here, this is going to show the styles that are in the model. So I've used two. The current one I'm using is this one right here, and you can tell because it has the black box around it. And if I go click on Edit, I can change the color and the thickness of my lines that I'm drawing. So really the only one I think I want to change right now is if I click on this box, this is my edge settings. If I click on here, let's change the paint bucket, the color selector comes up. Let's change those to red. And now if we look at my floor plan, I'll just get this out of the way, you can see that all the lines that I've drawn are red. So it makes it a lot easier to see. What's that? You can, the question was how can you get the lines thicker? You can do that if you go back into styles. You can change the profile thickness to, we'll go from 2 to 6, and then they get really thick, like that. So that's how you do that. So let's jump ahead to a floor plan that is done and ready to be extruded. So we'll go here, and let's see, let's do this one. And let's go back. Actually, this is what I want to do. Copy this. Okay, so imagine at this point, I figured you guys probably didn't want to watch me tediously go around and draw around an entire floor plan. I think we can sort of take that as read. But once you finish drawing all the lines around your floor plan, you get a face, because we know that in SketchUp, every time you have a closed loop of lines, you get a face. And once you get a face, that is something that you can push-pull. So I'll get my push-pull tool, and I can highlight this face, and I can bring it up like this. And let's say we've got 96-inch high walls, so we'll type in 96 and hit enter, and we've got our walls up. So a pretty good start so far, but we're missing a couple details. Whoops. We don't have our windows. There's a window here that we're missing. There's a window over here that we're missing, and I think there's a window right here, but we'll find out. So there's a couple ways we can do that. You can actually look through your floor plan and find them. So let me show you my trick for doing that. So I'm going to go to Camera, I'm going to Standard Views, and I'm going to go to Top. So I'm looking down at the top. And then I'm going to go to Camera again and change this to Parallel Projection. So I'm looking straight down in this. There's no perspective at all. And then I'm going to go to View, and I'm going to go to Face Style down here, and I'm going to click X-Ray. And what X-Ray lets you do, and I'm just going to turn this in 3D so you guys can see this, it gives you an X-ray image of your model so you can see through. So now we can see our 3D walls, but we can also see where we're missing some of these windows here. So it looks like I'm missing a window here in the living room, I'm missing one in the bedroom, and one in the bathroom here, but we'll fix that up. So I'm going to go back to my top view, so Camera, Standard Views, and Top. And I'm going to go in here and hit Rectangle Tool and draw a window in like this. And I'm going to do the same thing over here and the same thing over here. So then I'm going to go and I'm going to turn this back to perspective. So I'm going to check off perspective. And then I'm going to go back to Camera, View, and Face Style and turn off X-Ray. So we're back to this normal image here. So now that I put these rectangles in, I separated up this top face. So I have another face that I can push-pull. So I'm going to take my push-pull tool again, and push-pull these down, because I want to get the bottom of the window. Then we're going to fill in the top in the next step. So with push-pull, just so you guys can see this here, you can push-pull. Just turn this around. You can push-pull to a particular dimension. Now, the dimension that I probably know is the height off of the floor to the bottom of the window. I probably don't necessarily know this dimension from the top down. I mean, you could figure it out, you know, take the height off the floor and minus it from the ceiling height, which we know is 96. There's another way that you can do that. So I could go in here and I could take my tape measure tool and I could measure anywhere along this line, click once, and snap a line up here, and I can type in the dimension of that line. So let's say I know that this window is 42 inches off the floor. So I can type in 42 inches, and it will drop that dotted line that's there. So I can take my push-pull tool again, and I can push-pull down directly to that line. That makes sense? So it's kind of like snapping a line or putting a mark on the wall if you're thinking about it in real life. Now, a cool trick with the push-pull tool is, just for the sake of being easy, let's assume that all the windows in this apartment have that same height. I can go to the next face that I want to push down. I can just double click it, and it will do the exact same distance for me. So a little shortcut. And double click again, and do the same thing. So I've got that all set up. Now we have a little problem here, but I'll fix that up like that. Don't worry about that. That's not there in the next step. So how many people have used guidelines before, these dotted lines? Okay. How many people have ever used guidelines and you were like making them with the tape measure tool and you were going like this and you had your dotted line and you clicked again and it disappeared? Does that ever happen to anyone? Okay. If it hasn't happened to you, it will happen to you at some point. And let me show you how to deal with it. I can't tell you how many people I've had email me after class and they said, you showed me how to do all the stuff with guidelines, I'm mapping everything up, but every time I put a guideline on, I see it, and then it disappears, I don't know what the hell's going on. So I'll show you how to fix that. So typically in any interior that I'm drawing, I will end up with lots of guidelines all over the place. This one here for the window, we're kind of done with, we don't need anymore. If I was mapping out like a complicated curved wall or something with a lot of angles, you end up with these dotted lines all over the place. And there are three ways that you can get rid of them. So number one is you can take your eraser tool and you can click on each one at a time, and you can erase them. That's a totally fine way to do it. But if you, like some of my drawings, if I end up with 15 of them and they're all over the place, it's tedious and I kind of want to do it all at once. So here's the part where people make mistakes. You can go to View and you can uncheck Guides. And when I do that, all the guides disappear in one click. It's pretty easy, right? Especially if you had a ton of these all over your model. So I see people do that, and then they'll continue on modeling, and then they come back and they go, okay, I need another one of those guidelines. So you go back to the tape measure tool, and let's say we were mapping something out on this wall here, like this. So they pull along, they type in their dimension, and you click, and the guide's not there. You go, all right, maybe that was just a fluke. I'll try it again. And then they try it again, and again, and again, and again, and then they'll go, okay, maybe it was that wall. Maybe I'll try from the other side. Go over here, go over here, go over like that, and nothing happens. So then I'll get like a frustrated email, what's going on, SketchUp's broken, it's terrible, and I'll go to View, and is guides checked off? No? Okay, check it off. Boom, there are all the guides. So the reason why that's there, and there's actually good use for that. Sometimes you need to keep the guides, but you just want to turn them off really quick because they're in the way of something else. So if this ever happens to you, check that out. And the guides can be checked or unchecked if you change a style, like if you change to one of those sketchy edge styles. Sometimes they're unchecked by default. So just make sure you check that. So if you truly want to delete all of your guides, and this is usually what I do, you can go to View, and wait, Edit. It's muscle memory. If you go to Edit, which is the next menu over, there is a button in here that says Delete All Guides, and this will actually delete all of the guides in your model in one click. So keep that in mind. Hopefully it only happens to you once, but if it does, you'll remember where those settings are. Any questions on that? Does that make sense? I don't think that's a shortcut. No, that you may have the question was, can you hit D to delete them? And you can set that as a shortcut, but it's not a default shortcut. That would be a good shortcut, though. I should probably do that.
The other thing was maybe you can select points through the wall if it's in X-ray mode. Mm-hmm. That's a good one
Yeah, we're gonna get to that in a little bit. Okay, so let's finish up this wall here. Let's see. So this wall, I drew it all. I did a push-pull. It's not grouped. How many people use groups and components? Okay, that's good. Almost all of you do, but when you leave this class today, everyone is going to use groups all the time, and I'm going to explain why right now. Okay, if you learned one thing today, this is the thing that you should learn. So for those of you that this isn't totally solidified in your head, groups, okay, there's two types of things in SketchUp. This is raw geometry. So this is a box, there's 6 faces, a bunch of edges that make it up. I can select each individual face, I can select the edges, I can do anything to them, I can push-pull them, I can skew them around, all kinds of things like that. So if I wanted to select this whole box and I wanted to move it around, it's very easy to do. If I wanted to delete it, it's easy just to select the whole thing and hit delete and it's gone. So a lot of people that come over from AutoCAD kind of live in a world where all your geometry is just sort of hanging out there, and that works fine in AutoCAD because you can put it on layers. So a lot of people that I teach come over from AutoCAD and they'll use SketchUp and they'll draw something and then they draw something else like this and they'll end up sticking it together. So imagine like you drew a bunch of walls and then maybe you draw a piece of furniture and you put that piece of furniture up against a wall, which happens all the time, right? So they put it up against there and they go, okay, this is cool. And then later on, they come along and they go, you know what, I want to move that somewhere. And so they try to like select the whole thing, and it's really hard to get just the box. Maybe we can get it here. So we get that, and then we get this little piece, and then maybe they figured out you can go in here and tediously unselect all this stuff. Let's see if I can get it by looking at the screen. Maybe. Okay. So like that's a real pain in the neck, right? But I did get it. I did get the whole box. Oh, we got a little extra piece here. Maybe we can get that out of there. All right. So I got the whole box, and they go, all right, I want to move this away, and they do that, and then that happens. Okay. This is a bad time. So I was an AutoCAD user for years. I just started learning SketchUp, and I went into it with a lot of hubris, thinking, oh, I totally know AutoCAD, and I like did a couple tutorials in SketchUp, and I made some 3D boxes. And I got hired to draw a condo complex. It was 4 different units, and then we had to repeat them across this big terrain model. And I got contracted to draw the totally realistic model of this condo complex. I drew the whole thing, and it was amazing. It had these curved windows in it, it had shingles, it had the gutters, it had all the furniture in the inside. I drew it all from scratch, and it's like, check this out, this whole model from scratch. It's amazing. And then the guy who I presented to, he's like, that's great, but we want to move some of the furniture around. So I moved some of it around. I had grouped absolutely nothing in the model, and I picked up, it was a kitchen cabinet I think I moved, and like that happened. And over the next 20 minutes, I realized that the entire model was useless, and I had to trash it and start over. Now, one of the ways I tried to fix it is because I came from AutoCAD and other programs like Photoshop where they have this idea of layers, so I thought, maybe I should have been drawing with layers. Okay, so let's do this same example again, and I'm going to open up the layers menu. We'll go here, and I'm going to make an even simpler example. So I'm going to draw a box, and I'm going to draw a box like this. And don't worry about how I'm doing this, but I'm just going to stick this on a layer called box 1, and I'm going to stick this on a layer called box 2. So we have 3 layers in this model. Layer 0 right now is irrelevant, but if I turn off box 1, that layer turns off. And if I turn off box 2, that layer turns off. So you can hide and show things that way. That makes sense to everyone? Okay. So here's another mistake that you can make. So I'm going to turn off box 1, and I'm going to take box 2, and I'm going to move it over here. And that incidentally is where box 1 was just a moment ago. I'm going to click, I'm going to set it down, and then you get this ominous warning that says your recent operation has caused visible geometry to merge with existing geometry on a hidden layer. Now, I saw that a lot when I was trying to fix this condo model. And I was like, whatever. And I would just kind of do that, and then I would do that, and then I would do that, and then that, and that, and that. And I go, okay, well, let's take a look at the model. Everything looks good. I can still turn on this one, and I can turn on that one, and it's fine. So let's go move this out of the way. Everything still looks good, right? All right, let's turn back on box one. Damn it. Not good, not good. So their layers are very useful in SketchUp for like other things, which we'll kind of talk about later, but they're not good for this sort of model organization. So the correct way to do it, and I know most of you guys said you know what groups and components are, but I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page here. I'm going to draw a box and draw another box like this. So as you're modeling stuff, you should put it in groups or components every time you make a meaningful thing. A set of walls, a door, a window, a piece of furniture, a doorknob, whatever it might be. And if you do it as you're going along, it's really easy to make them. So this box right here, and here's another great common mistake. Let's actually take, just to make a good example here, let's do this. We'll make these really big. Covering the sun, there we go. Okay, so I can select this box by clicking and dragging and drawing a box around it. We don't want her in it, so you could be careful and maybe line this up and draw a box around it this way. And that's not a bad way to select something. Where people can make mistakes is sometimes if they're looking like this and you draw a box around it and select, it looks like you only got the box, but if you're not paying careful attention when you turn around, sometimes stuff that's behind it can get selected. So my favorite way to select stuff is to triple click it. So a single click selects a single line or a face. A double click selects the face and all the lines that make up that face. A triple click, so 1, 2, 3, will select the face, the lines that make it up, and everything else that touches it. And that works great here because this isn't touching anything else in the model. So I'll triple click it, I'll right click it, and I'll make it a group. And so what a group is like this protective force field that you put your model in. So you remember before when I was able to like push pull it and kind of skew this box around? Well, now I can't do that. I can't push pull. I just get an X that says we can't do that. If I use the move tool, it'll only move the whole thing at one time. But here's the good news. If I take this ungrouped geometry and I stick it over against this box and I even unselect it, and let's say I triple click it to select it again. You see how, remember I said earlier, just a moment ago, that triple clicking selects all of the geometry that's touching? Well, it didn't select that box because that first box we put into a group, which is like a protective force field, right? So what this lets me do is you can imagine, we'll do this in a minute, you can imagine if you have your walls and you've grouped your walls and then you start drawing furniture or pictures or whatever else on your wall, you can do that without blowing up your wall, but you can use your wall as a guide. So let's say this is a piece of furniture and I was done with it. I would right click this and I would make it a group. So now I can have them snap to each other, or I can move them away, or I can delete them completely and it doesn't wreck my model. Now, if you want to edit one of these things, say you did want to push pull this, or you want to skew it or put a hole into it or change its material or other things like that, you can double click on it, double click, and that brings you inside that group or inside that protective force field. So you can see that bounding box that's around there, and like everything else in the model is grayed out. It's letting you know that you're inside that group and you can edit it. So now I can do things like push-pull and skewing, or really anything else I could do to raw geometry. Whoops. Everyone, does that make sense? Okay, cool. Yeah. And we're going to get to this. I don't do layers until like the end when I'm nearly done. And the only thing I typically use layers for in an interior model like this is I'll put like cabinetry, furniture on a layer. I'll put like tchotchkes, if I have little, things that don't really matter but might slow me down if I'm modeling, but I want it in a picture, I'll have a little tchotchkes layer. And they're really easy to set up after, so we'll do that towards the end. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I just draw everything on layer 0. You don't even have to think about layers until you're setting up a view at the end. Okay, how long does this one go? Are we 10 o'clock or 10:30 on this one? 10:18? 10:15. Okay, cool. This one, I was looking. I'm like, it's 9:39. I hope I have more than 20 minutes left. So, okay, 10:18 is fine. Thank you guys for being my timekeepers. Okay. Now we're back into our wall. So all we've drawn in this plan is the wall. And that box example I just gave, we basically have a fancy box. Now the image that we brought in, because we brought it in as an image, was already grouped. It's already in its protective force field. In fact, it's kind of a special group. It's a special image group. So we were able to draw on top of it. And if I select and move my floor plan, nothing sticks to it. So we're good there. So if I just triple click, so 1, 2, 3, triple click my wall, I can right click it, and I can make it a group. So now, and we're going to go back, we're going to do other stuff to this wall. We might put another window in it or modify the doors or something like that. But even though I'm not quite done with this, I'm done enough that I want to put it in a group now, so I don't forget to do it if I go to draw something else later. So does anyone use the, well, no, we're not going to do solid tools here. Let's do something different. So let's fix up our windows here. So I need to put, this window does not go all the way to the ceiling like this. I need to put, sort of a header in there. I'm going to double click. I'm going to go into my group to edit it. And I'm going to use my rectangle tool. And I'm just going to draw a rectangle from one corner and the other corner. And that's OK. Don't worry about that. So what I'm going here, let me just jump ahead real quick. What I'm after doing is something like this. That's what I want to end up happening. So when I put my rectangle here, it fills in this face here, and it fills in the face there, and this face in the back here. So there's actually a bunch of different ways you could make this hole in here. You could use your push-pull tool, and you could start pushing down, and if you look on the bottom of your screen, and it's probably a little hard to see here, but there's all these little hints for all of the tools in SketchUp. And so this one here, it says drag to push-pull face or enter a value. The one we're after, it says option equals toggle create new starting face. So watch what happens when I do that. I've started push-pulling this down, but if I hit option and it's control on a PC, it will sort of leave that original face and make a copy of a new one. So I can go like that. And so now I've got, and let's pretend I knew what that dimension was and I typed it in. But now I've got a face here and I've got a face here. And I can actually turn this into a window opening. So there are a couple different ways I could do this. I could use my push-pull tool, and I could push a hole through here. Totally fine way to do it. Or I could just select this face and hit delete, and I could select that face and hit delete, and does the same thing. However you want to do that is totally fine. And then the last thing, the last thing I want to do here is sort of clean up this extra geometry. So I can go to my erase tool and just erase this line and erase this line, and now it makes this one face. And the reason why that worked is because on the left and on the right and the middle, those three faces are on exactly the same plane, so you really don't need those lines there anymore.
You need to erase them on the back side?
You can. I'm going to actually erase them on the top too, just to keep things neat and orderly. Like this. You don't have to, because you're probably not showing that part of the floor plan, but I always do just to keep it tidy. Another way that you can make a window opening, like if you didn't have it in your floor plan or you wanted to do it a different way, you can use the tape measure tool to map out an opening. So normally with the rectangle tool, you can draw a rectangle to a very exact dimension, but you can't draw a rectangle on a particular place, in this case on a wall. Okay? So the way to do that is, let's say we wanted a window that was centered in this wall here. So SketchUp will snap this line to the center point if I use my tape measure tool off of the corner. And let's say this is going to be a 30-inch wide window. So half of 30 is 15. So I could pull this way, type in 15 inches, click here and pull that way, and type in 15 inches. And let's say we know my wall is 42 inches off the floor. So I would just hit tape measure tool, come up here, type in 42, and let's say I know that my window is 40 inches tall, so I can do the same thing there. So you can kind of see what I've done here. I've mapped out a rectangle. So now I can take my rectangle tool and click point to point, like that, and push-pull that through, and I get the exact opening that I need. So that's another way to make a window if you didn't have it on your floor plan or if you forgot to put it in. And this is a great case of, you can kind of see why I actually most of the time model doors and windows this way. So you can see how I get a lot of guides built up. So typically at this point, I'll just go in here and go to edit and delete guides and just knock all those guides out. So yeah.
Push through a wall like that. How do you know whether you're going to push it all the way through or just delete it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let me undo there. So when you do the push-pull tool, so the question was, how do you know if you are going all the way through or just partially through? SketchUp does a really good job at knowing when. So we'll get deep for a second here. Okay. SketchUp is a face modeler. So that means every volume that you create, like a wall or a box or a tube or whatever else, think of it as like a thing that's wrapped in paper, real thin wall of paper. So I'm just going to take the top of this off, and that just to prove it, you can look in there and you can see these two faces that make it up. So back to our kitchen model, SketchUp knows when one face hits another face like that, and when it does, it goes, looks like you're trying to punch a hole. So we're going to do that. So when you take that one face and you push it through and it hits the other face, it will stop. And it will delete both of them, so you get a hole like that. You can. So there's like a, yeah, and there's a point. So like I get to here, and it says on face, but you can actually keep going. And where that can happen is if you turn around, you can go like that. And it's kind of a hard thing to teach without, I can't like explain to you why. You just sort of have to practice. It's like kind of like riding a bike. And my sort of move is I'm typically looking at these down from the top like that because I think you've been watching me model. We're almost always looking like this. And if I start from the top and I try to push through, it gets tricky because I can't really select that other face. What I usually do is just kind of start somewhere in the bottom and push up like that, and I get it much more reliably. And honestly, it really depends on how you look, what your habits are, and you just got to practice a little bit.
One thing I always look for the Z-fighting. Mm-hmm. Z-fighting, and you know you're on that face.
Yeah. So Chris, right? Yeah. So what Chris is saying, there's a thing in SketchUp. If you've ever heard a thing called Z-fighting, and what that is, I don't know why it's called Z-fighting, but it's when two faces are taking up the same exact space, you get this sort of flashing behavior, and that's kind of indicating to you that you have two faces together and SketchUp will delete them. So that's how you do a push-pull. Any other questions on any of that stuff so far? Yes?
You could also go with push-pull tool and interference with the backside of the wall, and that will just stop that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another great way to do it as well. Okay, let's jump ahead. I feel like this is a cooking show. You know, oh look, I just put this pie together and there's one coming out of the oven right now. I remember watching cooking shows as a kid and I just thought that was such BS. But and now I'm doing it. So okay, so I'm gonna do a floor here. So your question about layers, this is a great time to put something on a layer that you want to hide and show. So up until this point, I'm sort of lying, but up until this point, I had this model saved, but I have not put anything on any layer. It's all been on layer 0. So what I'm going to do next is I want to draw the floor in here, because we actually have no floor, because when I'm done with this model, I'm not going to show this drawing. This drawing is just here to create this model. So I put this floor, the drawing of the floor, on a layer, okay? So I'm actually going to, I thought I'd saved this earlier. So let's take, how do I want to get this off of this layer? Oh, we'll just delete it. Move to current layer. Okay. So my drawing and my wall are, everything's on layer 0. So all I have to do to move this wall onto a layer that I can toggle on and off is just select the wall. I like to right-click on it and go to Entity Info. And this is just a little box of little boring statistics about your stuff that's in your model. And right now it's telling me that this is on layer 0. And I can hit the little drop down. I don't have any other layers in this model, so you can just create one. I'm just going to call this one floor plan, like that, and hit enter. And not a whole lot of exciting stuff happens, but now this wall, because it's selected, and we typed in floor plan, is now on a layer called floor plan. So if I go to Window, and I go to Layers, now we have 2 layers. One is layer 0, and one is floor plan. So if I uncheck floor plan, my floor plan disappears. And this works fine. You don't have any of that weird group stuff, the scary stuff that I showed you before, because the floor and the wall were already in groups. So we're good on that regard. So with that off, I can actually go in here and I can trace around the bottom like this. And this is really easy because this is all SketchUp points that are in here. And let's see if I can get a floor for you guys real quick here. Let's go like that. Isn't this exciting? How many more lines is it going to take? This is almost done. Boom, there we go, we got a floor. So what I'm going to do in the end here is I'm going to put some texture on this. We're going to make this look like a wood floor, a wood planked floor. So for right now, this floor is done. I'm just going to triple click it, right click it, and make it a group. So now I've got this, this floor in here. And I figured you guys probably didn't want to watch me click on all the little points. So I would actually, in this case, do the whole apartment. And because I have a pie just coming out of the oven, let's go in here. So I did the same thing. I made the floor group, and I put the floor on a group, on a layer called floor. So now I have 2 layers in here, and I can actually uncheck my drawing, and I can check off my floor, and I've got this blank floor group in there. Make sense? Cool. Okay, so let's take a look at our...
If you were doing, say, all wood except for the bathroom, do tile, would you have?
I have you covered. Okay, so looking at our floor plan here, we've got tile in the bathroom, we've got a wood floor over here, and we're gonna set that all up. So it's actually pretty easy to do. So right now, I'm just gonna delete guides here. Oops. If I double click on this floor group, it's just a simple outline. It's all one face. So that means if I put a material on here, let's say we go to wood, and I get this pretty ugly floor, and put it on there like that, covers the whole apartment. Okay, we don't want that. We want tile in the bathroom. So we can actually do that. Let's undo. And so you notice when I double click on a group that everything else grays out. So it's a little hard to see here, but I'm in this wall and the floor disappeared, but when I'm in this floor group, the wall disappeared. Okay? I've had people also make this mistake. They go, well, when you showed it to me, when you double clicked on your group, everything else is grayed out, but when I double click on it, all I can see is my group, or the opposite. So there in the view menu, you can go to view, and you can go to component edit. I know we've been talking about groups, but it's under the component edit menu. And right now, I have this checkbox checked off that says hide rest of model. So when I uncheck that, now I can see my wall as well. Okay? So what we're actually going to want right now is we want to see the wall, because I'm going to put a line in the floor right here to define where the wood floor is going to stop and the tile is going to start. Okay?
What was that path again? View?
Yep. View, component edit. It should say group component edit, but it says component edit. And you can check off or uncheck hide rest of model. So I'm going to put a line in here. Let's say that the tile stops right here. You might have a threshold or something like that, but we'll just go with that for now. So I've got this line in here, and let's try painting my wood floor on again. Can anyone tell me what's going to happen? Everything. Excellent. You guys are awesome. Great. So you've been learning stuff here. So everything gets covered. So what I would do in this situation is, no, we're not going to make unique, because that's a good question. So if I go hide rest of model, you can see what happens here. I only have this little piece of line. That doesn't actually section off my whole bathroom. So I'm going to erase that. I'm going to do something a little different. So let's go to component edit, and let's turn on hide rest of model. And let's go to the top view here like this. And let's take advantage of the fact that this bathroom is essentially, or is, a rectangle, okay? So I'm going to use my rectangle tool, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle in here. I'm going to go to View and Component Edit, check off Hide Rest of Model. Now I've got a rectangle for the tile, and I've got the rest of this for the wood floor. So now this is going to be pretty easy. I'm going to go to B, I'm going to put in my wood floor, I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to find some tile, and I'm going to put in, let's put in this black and white tile here. Okay. Let's getting pretty ugly. All right. Okay, so now I teach people this, and they go, all right, well, that's great, but the floor is going the wrong direction, and the tiles are the wrong size. So we're going to do a quick little side lesson, which is this is the second thing that you should never, ever forget. So if you learn 2 things from this class, it's the groups thing. Oh, three, okay. That's a lot of things. The groups thing, the layers thing, and this thing that I'm about to teach you. So I'll do new model again. I'll do my favorite example, which are little boxes, like this. Someone just sigh because I'm drawing boxes again. I'm sorry. I could draw cylinders. You know what? Let's do cylinders. Why not? It's getting crazy in here. Here's a cylinder. Here's another cylinder. Okay. So I'm going to group the one on the right, and I'm going to leave the one on the left ungrouped. Okay. So when I go into my paint bucket, the ungrouped cylinder, I can paint this face. I can paint this face with a different material, and I can paint each individual face. And what I'm going to show in a minute, I'm just going to breeze through this really fast. We're going to go into this in detail in a second. I can right-click this texture because it's on a flat face, and I can hit position. I can move this around. I can change the scale of it. I can change the orientation, do all kinds of stuff with it. So pretty cool. We're going to cover this in just a minute. But the point here is that I can edit this texture, and I can do important stuff to it. So let's go over to my group. And I'm going to take that same tile texture, paint the whole thing. Okay, that's pretty cool. We painted a group. We got it all at once, and that may work very well. Maybe all of your walls are the same color, so we could go back over to our walls and we could paint them all. Oh, this is going to be good. We can paint them all. We can paint them all that color. And the whole thing paints in once, one click, it's all done. Pretty convenient. So, but there can be some problems with this. If this works for you, you want all your walls one color, like do it. That's fine. But where are my cylinders? So I get people they figure out materials, or I teach them about it, and then they go, okay, well, this is cool, but I want to mess around with the tile. So they'll go try to right-click. They can't find that texture menu, and then they go, oh, it's in a group. I'm going to go in the group. I remember you told me that. If I double-click and I go in a group, I can edit individual things. So then they right-click again, and they're looking for that texture menu. And there's this Make Unique texture here, but there's not that texture menu. The one that was here. So, whoops, the one that was right here, texture. There's not that position texture thing in there. And I wish this was a little more obvious in SketchUp, but what is happening is, remember that force field idea that I was talking about earlier? So imagine if maybe this might be hard to imagine, but imagine if you spray painted a force field, which is what we did on the right. That spray paint's going to stick to the outside of the force field. It's not actually going to go on those faces that we want to. On the one on the left, we were able to put that paint directly onto the faces, which means we're now able to manipulate it. So with that in mind, let's go back to our wall here. And I'm just going to undo and take away these materials. So just to really drive this home, if I had clicked tile, and I clicked on the bathroom, it goes on the whole thing. I can't position it, I can't resize it, or do anything like that. So what I want to do is double click on my group, go inside of it, pick my black and white tile, pick my wood floor, and paint those 2 individual faces. Anyone have any questions on that? Okay, question in the back.
So you can paint them individually inside of the group instead of painting it outside of the group and then trying to edit it within the group.
Exactly. Yep, that's absolutely correct.
Can I turn the wood because it's going in the wrong direction?
That's where we're going next. We're going to turn them all around. So there are a number of different ways that you can manipulate materials. And the 2 things we're going to do here is we're going to turn this floor the right direction, and we're going to make those tiles the exact correct size so that we can, we might even be able to figure out how many tiles there are. We could definitely line up a tile pattern correctly. So let's do the easy one first. Let's turn this floor. So if I right-click, so I double-click to go in the group, I right-click on the texture, and I go to texture. I can hit position right here, and this brings up these little grippies here. So this means I can just click and drag anywhere, and I can slide it around like this. And the ones that we're after, there's 4 different pins, and they all do something different. If you drag the red one, it's got, let me zoom this here so you can see. The red pin has these 4 arrows, and it just lets you slide the texture around like this. I hope nobody gets motion sickness, but the blue pin, if you click and drag it, does this, which we don't want. And if you do this and you go, oh my God, I wrecked my texture, which I just did, you can right click and you can just hit reset and it will start over. So you don't have to go repaint the texture again. The other one in here that we don't want, typically for this type of stuff, is this skew one. So that's kind of weird looking. So again, you can right click and you can hit reset. The one that we are after though is this one. So this one scales the floor and it turns it all at once. So you can make, remember that trick I showed you with the protractor earlier where when you're close to the pins, it does the, kind of snaps, and when you're farther away, it is sort of free floating. So here, we could turn it 90 degrees, and we kind of get it to some scale. When you get it to where you think you want it, you right click and hit done, and now we have all that floor texture heading the direction that we want. Yes, question? Yes, we're good. That is the next thing. No, that's fine. No, I don't mind questions at all. No problem. But if I don't answer your question, it's because I'm about to. So thank you for asking. So okay, this was fine for doing this wood floor. We got it going. I mean, that's a pretty dramatic change going from one to the other, and you would definitely want to show it going the proper way if you were presenting this to somebody. The tile is a little bit different of a challenge. We want to get this tile. We want to get to the right size so we know how many tiles are, because if that's a 3-inch tile versus a 6-inch tile, that's a really big design difference. It could be a mosaic too. Well, we're going to stick with checkers right now because they're really easy to look at. So one of the first things I would do with this is I would right-click it and do the same positioning thing that we did. And this time I'm going to be a little bit more careful about how I line this up. So remember I said this red pin here lets me drag it around? Before, when I was moving the floor around, I was just clicking anywhere and just moving it around like that. But I'm going to be a little bit more careful about it. So let's say your texture started up. This one's a perfect texture, but I'm going to make this one less perfect. So let's say your texture started up something like this. I'm going to zoom in right about there. So I have this red pin right here. It's in the middle of one of the tiles. If I click it and drag it, it slides all of the tiles around. But if I click it and release it, I can move the pin around and I can get it right into the corner of one of these tiles like this. So in this case, it's even snapping right there. So I've got that pin right in the bottom corner of that tile. And what that means that I can do is I can click and drag on that pin. When I get it over in the corner of my bathroom, it snaps right in the corner like that. So when I right-click again and I hit done, now that tile is perfectly lined up in the corner. So that's step one. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So the next thing you're probably thinking is, well, how do you make that a 6-inch tile, or how do you make that a 12-inch tile? So what you cannot do that from here, even though we have this scale tool here. We can resize it, but we can't give it a finite dimension, okay? So we can't do that here, but there's another place that you can do it. So this looks a little bit, this materials window here, I'm on a Mac. It looks a little bit different on a PC, but everything you're going to learn, the buttons are the same buttons. They're just in different places. So if you hit your paint bucket tool, or B for buckets, I hit B so many times I forget where the actual icon is. So here, if we click in both Mac and PC, somewhere you're going to have this little home button, okay? And this shows what textures are in your model. So if I scroll down here, I'll zoom out a little bit. So here is my tile. So on a Mac, if I double click this, click, I get this edit window. On a PC, there's a little tab up here that says edit, and click that. And what it's showing me down here is I can change the texture and I can mess around with the opacity and things like that. But what we're really after is the size of this tile. So what a texture is, it's a little tiny image that's repeated over and over again. So the image that actually makes up our tile is this. It's a little JPEG, and it's 2 black squares and 2 white squares. And the size of it is 12 inches by 12 inches. So can anyone who's really good at math tell me how big our individual tiles are? Exactly. So Sometimes when I teach people, they think this is like the tile size button, and it's not. It's the texture size button. So if I wanted a 12-inch tile, I would do 24-inch by 24-inch, so half of that is, so now I have a 12 by 12 tile. So let's see what happened. Let's go take a look, and I'll just put this back to 12 so you can see the change. So there's a 6 by 6 tile, and there's a 24 by 24-inch tile. Make sense? What's that?
Make it 2 by 2 inch with some style.
2 inch by 2 inch? Oh, you'll find very quickly I am not what's in style with interior design. I know how to mechanically do it, not so much with the style. So there's a 2 inch by 2 inch, like that. So you, oh, 4, oh man, see, I busted, you're right.
Oh, why did you 1 by 1 tile? So we had to do 2 by 2.
Well, we'll see me after, and we'll make different tiles. Okay, so let's go back to. Geez, you're like a client. I got out of that. I'm teaching. I don't want to have to deal with people's design decisions. Okay, so you actually had, Gail, you had a question earlier about can you make them odd sizes. So this may not be the best, know if you can really get tiles like this, but there's a chain here. So if you've noticed as I've been doing this, I can, whatever dimension I type in, so if I type in 17 for the width, it copies down to the height. If I do it over here, if I say 29, it changes it to the top, the width dimension. So you can actually break that link. I want to line this up so you guys can see. So if I click the little chain here, it breaks it. So now what happens when I change the width from 29 to 12? Okay, so you can stretch and skew textures like that. 10 minutes? Okay. Let's fast forward to this. Okay, so this model has gotten a little more detailed. Now, I am what some people would call lazy. I like to call it efficient. And I didn't draw everything that's in here, everything that's in this apartment. I drew the walls and the floor. I drew the door openings. I did the rail molding, which I won't cover because I only have 10 minutes left. But if you put moldings in your models, go and see the profile builder table. Talk to Dale out there. I use this plugin. It is amazing for doing door trims, crown moldings, base moldings. I mean, you name it, it's amazing. And he can do actually a way better demo at it than me. But how many people use 3D Warehouse for stuff? Okay, so how many people have gotten something from the 3D Warehouse and it's been like the wrong size? It's been massive. Okay, so I got, there's 2 ways to deal with that. One thing that I'm a real fan of, so this model here, this is like a quick conceptual model. Maybe they don't want these 90s, early 2000s looking, pieces of furniture, but I put them in there real quick. This is like space planning. I'm just trying to get it set up, and I would refine it later by designing them a custom couch or a shelving unit or a desk or a table or something like that. But this is just kind of roughing it out, see what the space feels like. So what I like to do is I go to Window, and I go to Components in SketchUp, and there's a drop down over here, and this is a little bit counterintuitive, but if you click on Architecture, we'll see how our internet holds up here. Yes. So you go in here, and there are cabinets, there are doors, there's windows, walls, floors, and stairs, fireplaces, plumbing fixtures, electronics, games, things like that. And these are all drawn. You can see plumbing fixtures, they're all by SketchUp. So when you get these things, they're usually very basic, but they work properly. So if I go in and let's get, why not get a game? Let's see if we can find let's find an arcade game. So I download this arcade game. It comes in, it sticks right to the floor like it's supposed to. It's the right size, it's the right scale, everything works fine. Maybe we could sort of put that, I don't know, blocking the door because we don't need to go in there. So I always recommend when you're space planning, just grab the ones out of the SketchUp things. They always work well. Now, if you're picky and you want something different, so you go onto the regular 3D Warehouse and you search for something like, for instance, dinner plates. What's that? You're wrecking my example. I know there's a bad dinner plate in here because I checked 5 minutes before the class. So let's see. Let's try this dinner plate here. So we bring this in. Was this the one? Hang on a second. Dinner plate, dinner plate. I swear this is the one. Yeah, here we go. This is the one. Okay, so we have a dinner plate. Not the right size, not even in the ballpark, okay? So I see people that was so big I didn't even see it. I see people do this and they're like, what the heck, how do I deal with this? I guess I just got to delete it and find something else. Well, this is a common mistake you find in the 3D warehouse, and there's a super easy way to deal with it. You can take your scale tool, I like to do S for scale, and you can grab it on a corner and you can just scale it down to the right size or get it close. And this is my trick that I like to do. Dinner plate, probably 12 inches wide. So what you can do is normally when you scale stuff, you scale it by a factor. So in this case, scaling it down this small means it's 0.12 or, well, we'll make it 0.10. It's about 10%, roughly 10% of its original size. So if I click that, it's still way too big, but when I click it, if I don't go and do anything else, I can type in 12 inches and it will make that dinner plate. I'll just get it from here and bring it over here and put it on there. So now I have a 12-inch wide dinner plate. So super easy way to just roughly resize stuff and get it in from the 3D warehouse. Now, the other thing that's super cool about the 3D warehouse is let's go back to architecture, there are some components in here that are built with a little bit extra smarts. And if you take a look, see, it's hard to see here, but some of these components, have you ever seen a component in the warehouse and it's got this little badge next to it? That means it's a dynamic component and it's smart. It can do extra stuff besides just being squished and scaled. So let's find one of them in here. Okay, so I'm going to bring in this tall cabinet open and look, it's got this little badge in here. So I'll bring it in and I'll set it here. So we've got this tall cabinet. So maybe you just want to, let's see if this works. So, okay, same thing. This is a kind of a deep cabinet. Let's say that this was going to be the one that was going to go in this corner here. And I'm trying to scale it and it doesn't work. Maybe I make it a little shorter. I try that trick that he said, oh, just punch in the size and it'll do it, and it doesn't do it. This is because this is a dynamic component. If I right-click this component and I go down to Dynamic Components and I click on Options, we're going to see why we had that problem. This actually has drop-downs in it, so I can change its height to 68 inches. I can hit Apply and make this so you guys can see it here. So its height changes. I can change the width to 15 inches. Go down here and hit Apply. So this model smartly rebuilds itself. So all dynamic components are different. A lot of the cabinetry and shelving and furniture ones will sort of resize themselves. Some of the other ones, like if you get appliances and things like that, they have built-in like dimension guides, links to the website, things like that. So I definitely recommend looking for these. There's a lot of good ones out there for interiors. There's plumbing fixtures and things like that. But if you do try to scale them, you might run into that problem. Let's see, what have we got? 5 minutes left? 3 minutes left. Okay. I have a question for you guys. We've been working on this apartment. Anyone recognize this apartment? Yes. Okay. Nice. Thank you. I was wondering if someone was going to shout it out. How many people figured that out about halfway through? All right. Cool. We got 2 minutes left. Any last real quick questions I can answer? Yeah, in the back.
What was that was right click and then how did you edit that?
Yeah. Great question. That was right click, dynamic components, and options. There is a dynamic components, there's a little toolbar icon you can put on there as well if you don't like right-clicking.
That dynamic component, can you explode that and basically convert it to a regular component?
You could explode it, yep.
Any common mistakes that you see or pro tips for the cabinetry components?
Like making them or?
Designing cabinets, kitchen cabinets?
I mean, that's a whole, there we go. Sorry, I had to make it a little more authentic. I was waiting, if nobody got it, I was saving those for the end. Now, are you talking using the cabinetry or?
Just designing.
Okay, we have 2 minutes left. I'm gonna do this super fast in 2 minutes. Okay, so we have wall, boom, and we have wall, like this, the most basic example in the world. Okay, so imagine that this box is a cabinet, like that. So whatever it is, you made it yourself, brought it in from the 3D warehouse, whatever. So when I put these in, I actually will install them like one might install them in the field. And usually you start with the corner one, kind of build your way out from there. So what I see people kind of struggling with sometimes is like getting it exactly into the corner. Like this kind of stuff will happen. So here's the trick. I'll get you out of here. So what you can do is select it, click your move tool, and we're going to try to put this box over in that corner there. So you can select its base point, its bottom left corner, and when you move stuff, it lines up to the green, tries to line up to the green, red, or blue axis. So if I get it moving in the green axis like this, and I hold down Shift, it will lock it on the green axis, and then I can just point at this wall. So now if I look at the top, this cabinet is perfectly lined up against that wall. So now if I do the same trick over here, just get this out of the way, I click on this base point, click on this base point here, I get it moving towards the red, and again, it's kind of freely moving around, but if I get it on the red and I hold down Shift to lock it, now no matter what I do, it's locked in the red. If I just touch on that wall, now if I put this in parallel here and look at the top, you can see that cabinet is perfectly in that corner. So then for the subsequent ones that you get after that, it's like kind of like when you're installing them in the field. You get that first one perfect, get it perfectly leveled, attached really well to the wall. Then when you get other cabinets, you bring in one like this from 3D Warehouse. Sometimes the base point isn't right. It'll come in attached to your mouse pointer like this, so you can't, you couldn't like perfectly put it where it belongs. So you just set it down somewhere else. Click your move tool, click on that base point, and just snap it in like that, and you can keep building off your cabinets like that. And that's a great tip just in general if you're just trying to put things, put things together and getting them lined up. So that does it for me. Thank you guys very much for coming. Really appreciate it.